Picture this. It's midsummer, your watermelon vines are lush, green, and stretching like a jungle across your garden beds. The leaves are huge, the tendrils are curling everywhere, and you can almost taste that sweet, juicy first bite. But when you start looking closer, nothing. No baby melons, just flowers that bloom and disappear, vines that grow and grow, but fruit, nowhere in sight. I know the frustration. It's like being promised a concert and only getting the warm-up act. But here's the good news. When watermelons don't fruit, it's not because they're stubborn or spiteful. It's because something in their environment or care routine is off. And once you figure out what that is, you can flip the switch from all vine, no melon to hello, summer harvest. Let's break down the most common reasons your watermelons refuse to set fruit and how to turn it around, starting today. Watermelons are a little high maintenance in the romance department. They produce both male and female flowers on the same plant, but they can't self-pollinate like tomatoes. They rely on pollinators, mainly bees, to carry pollen from the male flowers to the female flowers. Here's the kicker: female flowers only stay open for one short day. If they don't get pollinated in that window, they're done. This means that if your garden doesn't have enough bees, or if the weather is rainy, windy, or just too cold during that critical period, pollination simply doesn't happen. You'll know a flower is female if it has a tiny baby melon at the base. That's the ovary. Males just have a straight stem. If those little melons are shriveling up and falling off, you can bet it's a pollination issue. The fastest fix? Hand pollination. Early in the morning, find a fresh male flower, strip back its petals, and gently brush the yellow pollen onto the stigma in the center of a female flower. You can also use a soft paintbrush or cotton swab. It's not glamorous, but it works. You know, when gardeners see lush, vigorous growth, they often think, I'm doing everything right. But with watermelons, too much nitrogen can actually be their downfall. Nitrogen makes plants leafy and green, which is great for spinach, but, pretty disastrous for fruiting crops if it's unbalanced. When your soil is loaded with nitrogen, your watermelon vines think they're living in a luxury resort. They end up putting all their energy into producing more leaves and stems, completely forgetting their job of making fruit. So if you've been using a high nitrogen fertilizer or fresh manure, you'll want to cut back immediately. Instead, switch to a fertilizer with a higher phosphorus and potassium ratio, which encourages flowers and fruit set. Even better, feed them with compost or a balanced organic mix that supports the plant without tipping it into leafy overdrive. Watermelons are true sun worshippers. Anything less than 6 to 8 hours of direct sunlight a day, and they simply won't produce properly. They might survive, but their growth will be slower, their flowers fewer, and their fruit, if it appears, will be small and lacking sweetness. If your plants are shaded by buildings, fences, or even other taller crops, that could be the problem. Remember, watermelon plants are like solar panels. They need that light energy to fuel the demanding process of fruit development. If you can't move them this season, consider trimming back nearby plants or using reflective mulch to bounce more sunlight onto your vines. And for next season, make sure your watermelon patch is in the brightest, sunniest part of your garden. Watermelons don't just want any old dirt. They need well-draining, fertile soil with a slightly acidic to neutral pH, ideally between 6.0 and 6.5. If your soil is heavy clay, it holds too much water, suffocating roots and stressing the plant. On the flip side, sandy soil drains too fast, leaching nutrients away before the plant can use them. Either extreme can stunt growth and prevent fruiting. The solution is to work in plenty of organic matter, compost-aged manure or even leaf mold, before planting. Not only will this feed the plants, but it will also create the crumbly, aerated soil structure that watermelon roots love. You know, it's really worth doing a soil test before the season even starts. That way you'll know if your pH or nutrient levels need adjusting, rather than just guessing mid-season when it's honestly a lot harder to fix. Sometimes the problem isn't environmental at all. It's actually that your watermelon plants are under attack. Aphids, cucumber beetles, and spider mites might seem small, but they can definitely weaken plants, damage flowers, and reduce fruit set. Diseases like powdery mildew or fusarium wilt can stress your plants so much that they just don't have the energy to produce fruit. If you notice yellowing leaves, strange spots, or stunted growth, don't ignore it. For pests, encourage beneficial insects like ladybugs and lacewings, or use an organic insecticidal soap. For diseases, good air circulation, crop rotation, and resistant varieties go a long way. And remember, prevention is far easier than trying to nurse a sick watermelon plant back to health. Watermelon vines like to sprawl. When they're crowded too close together, they compete for sunlight, nutrients, and air circulation. This not only affects fruiting but can also create a breeding ground for pests and diseases. Each plant needs room to stretch, usually at least 3 to 4 feet apart in rows that are 6 to 8 feet apart. It may feel like overkill when they're seedlings, but by midsummer you'll see why that space matters. If you've already planted too closely, try gently training vines to grow in different directions or prune some growth to open things up. Here's something many gardeners forget. Watermelons take time. Depending on the variety, it can be 80 to 100 days from planting before you even see fruit. Some plants will produce lots of male flowers first, and only later start producing females. So if your vines are healthy, the flowers are coming, and the conditions are right, sometimes all you need is patience. Keep caring for them, keep the pollinators happy, and trust the process. When watermelons fail to fruit, it's rarely just one issue. Often it's a combination, maybe a little too much nitrogen, not quite enough sun, and a pollination gap caused by a rainy week. The key is to look at the whole picture. Think of your watermelon patch as an orchestra. The sunlight, soil, nutrients, pollinators, and plant health all have to be in harmony. When one section is out of tune, the whole performance suffers. The beauty is that once you identify the weak spot, changes often show results within a couple of weeks. Flowers start setting, baby melons appear, and suddenly that summer harvest is back on track. If you've been battling melonless vines this year, don't give up. The sweetest watermelon you'll ever taste is the one you grew yourself, especially after troubleshooting and nursing your plants through to success. If this guide helped you figure out what's been going wrong, share it with another gardener who's been scratching their head over their vines. And if you want more plant-saving, harvest-boosting tips like this, make sure to subscribe to Botanical Bliss so you never miss a chance to turn garden problems into garden victories.